The document detailed an investigation into a spearfishing campaign by the Russians, and she really became Trump's number one whistleblower target.
You're listening to Radio Free Mike. Hi, and welcome to Radio Free Mike, the podcast about freedom and its discontents. My name is Michael Scott Moore, and today we're talking to Sonia Kennebeck about her documentary film Reality Winner, which is about the whistleblower who released evidence of Russian interference in the 2016 election. Reality was arrested by the FBI during Trump's first term for leaking a classified document to the Intercept, a news site, and the Department of Justice came down on her fairly hard. The case is interesting again because of a tendency to whitewash the hacking story since Trump got reelected. Sonia, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So your film about Reality Winner takes us back to 2017, which was the first year of the Trump administration. Just remind us what happened. I remember when the story broke and I thought, oh my God, this is a big deal. And then it seemed to sort of disappear. So remind us exactly who Reality Winner was and what she was accused of.
Yes, so Reality Winner is the name of a young woman. It's actually her real name, Reality Winner. And she was a contractor, an NSA contractor in Georgia. And she came across a document about Russian election interference, the FBI investigating Russian election interference.
During the 2016 election.
Correct. And that was during a time in 2017 where there was a lot of debate in the public about, was there interference? Was there no interference? Was it all a hoax? And so she saw that document and saw that there was an investigation, and she released it to the public. Initially anonymously, she sent it to the Intercept publication, and they unfortunately made a few source protection mistakes, and the FBI showed up at Reality's doorstep to interrogate her 2 days before the document was actually published.
Right. So first of all, the Intercept, that's disappointing. I like the Intercept, but they made some mistakes. And the FBI was obviously paying attention to when the Intercept was going to run their article because their timing was impeccable. I mean, they were there. I think they announced Reality's arrest an hour or two after the story appeared on the Intercept.
Exactly. It was around the same time. And you and I, we pay attention to these things.
Exactly. That timing is not a mistake. Yeah.
And and I remember that initial release that an NSA leaker, a whistleblower, was arrested. And as you just said, this was, in my mind, like this was huge news because it's so rare to have people from the inside who take that risk to disclose something they believe that is very important for the public to know. That's the definition of a whistleblower. Right. And it just doesn't happen very often.
This was only 4 years after Edward Snowden exposed a huge number of secrets from the NSA. I mean, he released a huge number of documents that suggested the NSA, which is the National Security Administration, was using international methods and what are normally external security methods to intercept American communications, domestic communications. So this was another instance of someone within the NSA releasing a secret. But
at a whole different level.
But it was one secret. It was one document. And it suggested that the Russians had tried to interfere, at least in a few parts of the country, with voting software. Could you go into detail a little bit about what the document said?
Yes, the document detailed an investigation into a spearfishing campaign by the Russians. It doesn't. It's actually, it's a pretty short document. It detailed that there was an investigation. It was, hackers were trying to get into the voting rolls and really try to get into those systems. But there's nothing in this document that suggests that they were successful. And then compared to much later, the Mueller report, the Mueller report had so much more detail that was published when you compare it now to the document Reality Winner released. However, she was the first who released information that there was actually an ongoing investigation, that the FBI was aware of all of that. And because it was so politicized, and at this time, when she was arrested, the Trump administration really, and they said it publicly, they really wanted to make an example out of her and prosecuted her in ways that were completely unexpected to me, quite honestly. And she really became Trump's number one whistleblower target.
Right, and they came down like a hammer. What I remember is that it was the first internal document that suggested that all the rumors were possibly true. So in other words, there was a huge amount of controversy about whether Donald Trump was supported by the Russians, by Russian election interference. And for years, actually, he kept saying, no collusion, no collusion. There might have been some interference, but we didn't collude and everything like that. So it was this enormous controversy for years. And in the first year of his term, this document came out that tilted the evidence towards, the Russians did try to interfere, at least on maybe a small local level, according to this one document. And Trump didn't like that. And Reality Winner's name disappeared remarkably fast. So she went to prison, and your documentary points out, she went to jail within an hour of or even before the article came out, and didn't even get bail.
And it was totally unexpected to me, at least, because as you've said before, there was a previous NSA whistleblower was Edward Snowden, and he released a trove of documents, and Reality Winner disclosed one single document that had such relevance at that time, but it's still, it was in no way comparable. And if you compare that to other cases, like let's say General Petraeus or so, like I think what many of us journalists were expecting is, maybe a slap on the wrist, that, mishandling classified information, like that, that it wouldn't be a case that would, to be turned into such a hammer on this young woman.
Right. And she really was young. She was 25 at the time, I think.
Yes, correct.
And you have some remarkable video of the FBI coming to her home and asking to search the home. And you would think that it was all a desperate matter of public security, because in other cases like Snowden's, that were enormous dumps of information, there was easily a chance that there might have been something sensitive that could expose American spies abroad, that could really put somebody's life in danger, potentially, which of course is always what a government says. But in this case, all it did was tilt a public conversation in a certain direction. And the FBI, they were polite to her, but you had some remarkable footage of their interaction.
Yeah, so we have the audio recording of her interrogation, which our film team received through a Freedom of Information Act request and then a subsequent lawsuit. Because the FBI does not like to give out this type of information. They like to, the government likes to use it in court, which they did, but they were trying everything not to release it to the public as an audio recording. In court, they were quoting from the transcript. They also played some segments, and that was the argument that I then made. And I said, I heard the audio in the court, and it is of public relevance. And then the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press supported us and in that lawsuit, and we won against the FBI.
Did you win only after the trial was over? I imagine it was protected as evidence until then.
The problem with these type of Freedom of Information Act lawsuits is that you have to wait a certain time, and I think that's what makes it so challenging for a lot of reporters, that you need to work on a project where you can afford that type of time. In this case, the documentary took years to produce and cover anyways, because we also really wanted to see what would happen. Like everything in this case, in Reality's case, was so unexpected.
Right. Because
I expected her to be, released on bail, that, she didn't have any prior, charges or convictions. And so I just, thought, okay, I'm going to interview her. And then everything turned on its head when they put her, into pretrial detention for a year, and they treated her so harshly. And we're like, oh my gosh, we have to cover it. And that actually gave us the time to first do, just a proper process to do the Freedom of Information Act request. And then after the FBI just blocked and delayed, then we could go into the next step of working with the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press to file a lawsuit against the FBI.
Right. And it was successful. I mean, they're not always successful, so that's one remarkable thing. So the footage that I'm talking about is also video. That's the video is
a recreation, exactly. So the video is a recreation, but it's like I think it's fair. Like it's a very good representation of how this went about, because we filmed the video in Reality's actual house.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but this has been a free preview of this episode. And the whole thing is open to paid subscribers to Radio Free Mike. So if you'd like to hear the rest, please hit the link in your show notes or in the body of the email we've sent you and upgrade your subscription over at Substack. Then you'll be able to listen to the full episode on any platform. Thanks for listening.